A land where the rhythm and power of Africa mingle with the mysticism of Asia and the fast pace of Europe. A land of sunshine and surf, of wild, exhilarating coastlines. Ancient, vast desert plains share the landscape with mountain chains, sculpted over millions of years into bizarre and eerie shapes. South Africa, home to a kaleidoscope of cultures and races, where man and nature play equal part in the drama of life. The wind of change that has swept through the rest of the continent has reached the far south. South Africa is striving to reform the racial policies of the past. It has taken some time for the diverse peoples to finally move together, but the move towards the future and equality for all races has finally begun. South Africa lies at the southern tip of the African continent and occupies an area about half the size of Europe. It comprises 9 provinces, the 3 Cape provinces, Eastern, Western and Northern, Kwazulu Natal, the Orange Free State, the Northwest, Gauteng, and Northern and Eastern Transvaal. The principal cities are Johannesburg, Pretoria, Bloemfontein, Durban, Port Elizabeth and Cape Town. Africa, the cradle of civilization, holds among its many dark secrets the story of man's distant ancestors, the origin of mankind. Stone Age cave dwellers were living in South Africa 50,000 years ago. The brown-skinned nomad bushmen were known as the San. They later shared the land with sheep herders known as the Khoi. In time, several black nations migrated from Central Africa, forcing the San to retreat into the mountains and the Khoi to the southern shores. The first Europeans arrived in the 15th century, seeking a trade route to the rich spice lands of the East. Table Bay provided a natural safe harbour, and Table Mountain, now one of the world's most famous landmarks, would have been a welcome beacon for those early sailors on their long voyage to the Far East. Cape Town was established in the 17th century by a young ship's surgeon from Amsterdam, Jan van Riebeck. The giant Dutch East India Company had ordered him to set up a replenishing station to supply fresh food and water for the company's merchant fleet. Cape Town is a unique blend of European enterprise and African style. Many of the flower sellers at the city's outdoor flower market are from the Malay community. They are descendants of refugees and slaves brought from the East Indies by the Dutch. When they were set free, they settled on the slopes of Signal Hill. The Malay Quarter has its own very distinctive character and charm. The people still practice the Muslim religion of their ancestors. the call to prayer fills the streets with the exotic atmosphere of the Orient.
So when we look at the Eurasian period,
Table Mountain, known locally simply as the Mountain, regularly rolls out its famous tablecloth of spilling cloud. It appears when a howling southeasterly torments the city residents. The blustery wind has its advantages and is known as the Cape Doctor because it drives out pollution and insects, making the atmosphere one of the healthiest in the world. The eastern slopes of Table Mountain are carpeted with the lush and verdant Kirstenbosch gardens. These are the National Botanical Gardens. The rich display of flowering plants, shrubs and trees is a showcase for the indigenous flora of southern Africa. They include many rare species, as well as South Africa's national flower, the protea. Cape Town is situated on the northern tip of the Cape Peninsula. Inland lies the famous Cape Wine region, and to the southeast is a series of beautiful sandy bays leading to Cape Agulhas, the most southerly point in Africa. At the tip of the Cape Peninsula lies the Cape of Good Hope. Jutting jaggedly into the stormy southern waters, the Cape of Good Hope has claimed the lives of innumerable sailors who dared to defy these treacherous seas. It is now a national reserve and a nature lover's dream, but it was once called the Cape of Storms and lived up to its name. Not all of the coastline is dangerous. Cape Townians enjoy an enviable choice of endless sandy beaches basking in the African sun. The South African coast is among the most beautiful in the world and a great source of leisure and pleasure for people of all ages, backgrounds and cultures. The influence of two of the world's great oceans has tempered the South African landscape. In the east, the warm Indian Ocean nurtures lush subtropical vegetation. In the west, the cool Atlantic starves the barren desert of vital rainfall. They meet at Cape Agulhas, Portuguese for needles, so named because here at the southern tip of Africa, the needle of the compass points due north without magnetic deviation. The Cape region, comprising 3 provinces, is by far the largest in South Africa. On the central plateau lies a vast arid region known as the Karoo. The Swartberg and Botanical mountain ranges to the south mark the boundaries of its neighbour, the Little Karoo. Further south along the coast runs what is known as the Garden Route. One of South Africa's most famous holiday coasts, the Garden Route offers anglers a tempting array of tranquil bays and lagoons. Plettenberg was given the name Bahia Formosa by the Portuguese, meaning beautiful bay. The area is also one of the world's richest commercial fishing grounds. From safe harbours such as this one at Mossel Bay, trawlers go in search of hake and sole. The garden route is a treasure trove for botanists. Cape flowers and lush greenery flourish along the coastal plateau, while dolphins play in the warm ocean currents. The plain of the Little Karoo is a strangely beautiful semi-desert, fed by the trickling remains of mountain streams. The creatures that inhabit the region are as strange as the landscape. More than 3/4 of all ostriches, the world's biggest bird, live in the Little Karoo. They are farmed just as any other livestock, but they are prized for their feathers. The strutting birds are somehow suited to their position of unchallenged supremacy in the realm of the flamboyantly fashionable feather. The Swartberg Mountains mark the final boundary before the road leads into the deep interior and the Great Karoo. A vast, endless, arid plain, the Karoo stretches across a third of South Africa. The name means land of thirst, but the dry vegetation is highly nutritious and the area is home to a rich variety of wildlife. The springbok, one of South Africa's national emblems, claimed this land long before man settled here. Windmills, spinning in the desert breeze, bring water to the parched land, now home to vast sheep herds. South Africa is the second largest producer of fine quality wool after Australia. Nestling in the heart of the arid landscape is the town of Graaff-Reinet, often called the gem of the Karoo. "200 years ago, Graaff-Reinet was a frontier outpost of the British-administered Cape Colony. The local people were tough pioneers and not keen to submit to British rule. At one stage, they declared the town an independent republic, but Graaff-Reinet was soon subdued by British officials. Eventually, a number of the local Boers, the Dutch word for farmers, decided to leave the British colony and go north in search of new land. Their journey became known as the Great Trek, and its leaders, such as Andries Pretorius, were once revered by many as national heroes. Diamonds, the world's most precious gem, are also part of South African folklore. In the 19th century, the discovery of a pebble that could cut through glass led to a series of legendary diamond rushes in the north of the Cape region. The boom was followed by a glut in the first half of the 20th century. Throughout southern Africa, old mining towns still lie forgotten, half buried in the drifting sand. Now largely contained within the newly created Eastern Cape Province, lie the former self-governing territories of Ciskei and Transkei. The Ciskei region is predominantly peopled by the Xhosa tribe, meaning the people of the woman. They are said to have been given the name after their leader was killed in a battle over ivory, and the tribe fled south, led by a woman. The Drakensberg Mountains, now within the Eastern Cape Province, were once the scene of bloody battles between Xhosa warriors and British settlers. The Xhosa men were fierce warriors and defended their land to the death. As with other parts of the Eastern Cape Province, Transkei is home to mainly Xhosa-speaking peoples. They have retained the old traditions, and many continue to live in dwellings of hardened mud, known as rondavels. All the doors face east, in the direction of good spirits. The way of life in the villages has not changed in centuries. Skilled craftsmen decorate local clay pots with traditional designs. It is an art that is still carefully passed on to the young. In recent years, however, the traditions have suffered some decline as the young men leave to find work in the cities. In spite of the exodus, the rural lifestyle is thriving. As night falls, the sheep are brought down from the higher pastures, and the villagers return to their rondavels, ready for the rising sun and the good spirits it will bring. The province now known as Kwazulu Natal includes the country's oldest game reserves. It is also a centre for the Zulus, one of the most formidable military powers to develop in Africa. The largest city in Kwazulu Natal is Durban. Durban is an exotic, bustling, subtropical port. The city reflects its English roots, and Queen Victoria still presides over its streets. But it is above all a cosmopolitan city. The influence of the Asian culture provides a flavour of the East, while the vibrancy and colour of Africa are everywhere. The African population of Durban consists mainly of people from Kwazulu Natal, all of whom speak the same Nguni language, generally known as Zulu. Nearly 500,000 Indians live in Durban, exceeding that of any other city outside India and making up the largest group in the city's population. The Orange Free State and the two newly created Transvaal provinces were established by the Boers who undertook the Great Trek. Their endurance was later rewarded when a massive gold reef was discovered along the Transvaal Prairie, or the Witwatersrand, in the former province of PWV. Gauteng, as it's now known, was to become the site of the financial capital Johannesburg, a short distance from the political capital, Pretoria. The discovery of gold prompted the greatest rush of prospectors the world has known. Johannesburg, once a dusty, crowded, raucous shantytown, burst into life. Within 3 years, it had become the country's largest town, and a century later, it is a vibrant and sophisticated metropolis. Johannesburg is the commercial pulse of the country. It is here that the major corporations and the international banks have their offices in an ever-expanding grid of high-rise buildings. At its heart is Diagonal Street, the city's equivalent of Wall Street. The price of gold is never far from the thoughts of dealers who continue to build on the city's success. South Africa is taking on the role of principal commercial gateway for the entire continent, and Johannesburg has become a meeting place for businessmen and women from all parts of Africa. Hailing a taxi in Johannesburg can require a knowledge of sign language. There is a different gesture for each of the nearby townships. The townships were set up under the old apartheid system as temporary dormitory towns to house the black workers. Soweto is now South Africa's largest city. During the old apartheid regime, it became a focus for the struggle for political equality, which is now enjoyed by all citizens of South Africa. However, Soweto is also a community of ordinary people, carrying on their daily lives with warmth and humour. Over the years, it has developed a distinctive culture of its own. One of the country's leading black community choirs is based in Soweto. Known as the Imilonji Cantu, the choir regularly performs in the United States and Europe, as well as venues throughout southern Africa. South Africa's administrative capital, Pretoria, is a spacious city of wide boulevards and lush gardens. It is also a young city. More than 3/4 of the population is under 35. Pretoria is also the hub of the country's political life. The administrative headquarters of the government is housed in the impressive Union buildings. Pretoria was founded in the mid-19th century and named after the Great Trek leader, Andries Pretorius. A giant monument in memory of the pioneering journey towers moodily over the city. It is surrounded by a circle of stone ox wagons, representing the defensive formation used by the pioneers when they came under attack. A few hours' drive to the east of Johannesburg and Pretoria lies the heart of the African bush, home to a vast and humbling array of magnificent wild animals. In Transvaal alone, there are more than 500 game parks. The largest, the Kruger National Park, covers a greater area than Israel. The elephant, once ruthlessly slaughtered for ivory, roams free here, sometimes at the expense of the landscape. The Drakensberg Mountains curve through 5 of South Africa's 9 provinces and include some of the country's most dramatic and impressive landscapes. The Zulus named these mountains the Barrier of Spears. The Europeans believed ferocious prehistoric creatures roamed through these heights. The name they chose, Drakensberg, means Dragon Mountain. No one knows whether ancient reports of dragon sightings and mysterious tracks were true, but the mountains were the last stronghold of the Stone Age San Bushmen. Fresh water and game were in plentiful supply, and the numerous mountain caves provided safe refuge. Although the people have long since vanished, their paintings have survived. This cave in the Giant's Castle Game Reserve has been set aside as a unique reminder of their ancient art. In this reserve alone, 5,000 paintings have been discovered, some of them dating back 10,000 years. This is South Africa, a startling and beautiful landscape shared by people of many different cultures, each contributing to this vibrant, dramatic land. This diversity has produced conflict, but now, out of the struggles of the past, has emerged a new country, a new identity, a culture in harmony with its vast and awe-inspiring natural heritage.